So I had to do this job without a machine, and so I was hauling that thing with like 2 metal rods through a guy's yard, and sure enough the guy's like, well, if you had a machine to do it, wouldn't this be more preferable? And it would. You know, I granted would have get that option, but at the time that was not a given, and surely the hell wasn't with a Bobcat tractor like that, with what he had. The only way going about this would be if in the movie Transformers, you know, you have a suitcase. Iron Man, he figured this out too. So did Mega Man. A suitcase can turn into a dog, a suit of armor, or a vehicle. You know, without thoroughly explaining, because God put the animal skins on, like Adam and Eve, and then this is where like the viruses from the animals, of course. But when you're sweating and everything, they're the bacteria's going about, and so when your body is sick, it sweats. And so when Adam and Eve, I'm thinking, before they sinned, before they got those animal skins put on them and kicked out of the Garden of Eve with a fire-sworded angel closing a gate, that sword having to do with thermodynamics is where, you know, Jesus knew no sin because he didn't do it, because he just loved God so much. That's all he needed to do miracles. He's like, I do it through him. And he would walk on water and go ahead and defeat death by bringing Lazarus back. These stories. But my belief is Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden never sweat bad bacteria. And so all their sweat, they were able to dry off from it with ease. Bringing Lazarus back. These stories. But my belief is Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden never sweat bad bacteria. And so all their sweat, they were able to dry off from it with ease. What would that look like? Because we don't have it currently. We've been having those animal skins put on. Alright, so what's your proposal, Joe? Kepler, he was into the planet's orbit alignment because he knew there was something better. In the future, it would be important to know those. In current modern day, an icebreaker would be talking about the weather. Everyone always says how cold it is, or warm. And this is, you know, an important thing to people. Whether it deals with how well their appliances work, if they break or not, is a complexion off of that, a play on that is really important because utility is making a slave out of humanity, inch by inch. The closer the supply chain is rattled and broken. Unfortunately, that's true. So in the digital landscape we were explaining earlier of how video games could be looked at, why not apply that same with the vast array of how great digital architectures nowadays, AI. I heard the Pentagon uses its internet software from Amazon. How embarrassing is that? Their towers, these cell phone towers. So then digital landscaping of AI, you know, would be like a buzzword of how great it is. So if I've learned anything, it's about during the holidays, it's great to get lightened up, the conversation going. And so like when they would say something, you say the very last word that they said as if it's a question and you're interested. I like playing baseball. Baseball? And so in video games, how to do this would of course be the save button. If you get to a checkpoint in a video game, it saves automatically. This is a fantastic feature, and I'm laying it out in what in biology has a vector. Virus vectors is when they create antibodies everywhere. Just the same thing, because like all the viruses and stuff that you do dodge in your lifetime, that goes without saying because you'd never know, is just how guns, they save so many people's lives, and those stories are never talked about. It's only when like there's shootings that occur that it makes so much noise, is because it's so much easier to crumble stuff than it is to build it up. And that's why things can be like too grassrooty, you know, and you would want more of a commercial standpoint. And you know, why I'm so interested in light and sound is a sound script could be like an entire denotation made into a blueprint, and if a blueprint could get lit up with like lighting to make it be as accurate in chemistry as possible, then you basically have the entire build of whatever the blueprint would be represented in real assets, if it's all just condensed with the correct frequency of the lighting. If it was shine on it, it would have all that info data, and that's ostensibly like the top tier of all coding. And that microcosm, but if it's being used against you and you don't know, how would you figure it out? There's these glass boxes. Jay Leno went in one because he got burned, and then in hospitals, that's like the CAT scan, another enclosed place you go into. And these enclosures in the TSA, you go into the enclosure and you raise your hands, and these are all like a complex of deduction. But in Einstein's E equals mc squared, it's like how the sound is of energy of a vibration, and light is an energy of you know, photons being energy. And so how relating those two always together is like a great way. So I had to do this job without a machine, and so I was hauling that thing with like 2 metal rods through a guy's yard, and sure enough the guy's like, well, if you had a machine to do it, wouldn't this be more preferable? And it would. You know, I granted would have get that option, but at the time that was not a given, and surely the hell wasn't with the Bobcat tractor like that with what he had. The only way going about this would be if in the movie Transformers, you know, you have a suitcase. Iron Man, he figured this out too. So did Mega Man. A suitcase can turn into a dog, a suit of armor, or a vehicle. So you pop that out, and there have you. In the grocery stores, they've got these carts that the people, they push with the engine motor. You push about 30 carts, the cart collectors, that is. But in store, if you had that option to push your cart with the motor, well, there's a electric cart to do that. Thermal converters are a thing, that of which, or have an ability to convert inertia of thermodynamics through a wire if that wire is fine-tuned enough with enough heat. Enough heat with fine-tuning a wire would mean a thermal conversion, granted electricity given for free off of a temperature that has been well gauged. The accuracy for this to happen on small objects is what a small circuit would give, but on a larger scale, something as a 4-stroke engine, you need a precision of things that you would think that aren't but actually are, such as sound waves. If you put headphones over a thick hat, the sound waves go through. You would think that it would distort the sound a little, but not through cotton hats. The same can be said with a lighting array, of which have you would be lighting travels vast distances, reflecting off stuff that you wouldn't think would catch it, surprisingly does. By not sinning and then becoming sin. So that algorithm, the angels, they would see this little baby Jesus in the manger, but then the angels leave the manger and go up to heaven that moment in time, you know, because now Jesus sits at the right hand of God in heaven, and all the angels are like, well, we defeated God, and then this one human, he didn't, and now he is God in the flesh because he was fulfilling, saving Adam and Eve from what they did.